Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie Esther here, and Dead by Daylight gave us a lot of information today about changes that are coming to the game with a developer update post, so let's check it out. It started with this tweet here that says, the September developer update number 2, part 1 of 2. Look, we've got a lot of news this month, okay? And then they have the link here, and when you click that, it takes you to the official Dead by Daylight website where it has the nuts and bolts of this update. Mid-chapter developer update, part 1. Let's read through this. It says, we're back with another developer update, a series of posts outlining some of the upcoming changes to Dead by Daylight. You read that title correctly. This is part 1. There's so much to cover this time around that we couldn't fit it all in one post, and the writer passed out halfway through typing this. Killer updates, the Trapper. Starting things off with a bang, or rather a snap, we've made a series of small changes to the Trapper. Did you know that the number of bear traps that spawn on the map is random? That's right, each trial will spawn between 4 and 6 bear traps at random. Now you can take this interesting little fact and completely forget about it, because that's no longer how it works. Now 6 traps will always spawn, not including the traps you load in carrying. This takes away some of the random element in playing the Trapper and makes each match feel more consistent. Having more traps is great and all, but wouldn't it be nice to carry more than one without add-ons? We sure think so. The Trapper will now be able to carry and start with 2 bear traps by default. This will help you get up and running quicker without relying on add-ons. The Trapper bag add-ons have been adjusted or repurposed accordingly. And finally, on the subject of add-ons, we've done a pass on some of his least used add-ons and either increased their effects, removed their downsides, or gave them new effects entirely. So the tension spring resets 2 seconds after a bear trap resets 2 seconds after a survivor escapes from it. That's interesting. High tension spring that snaps back into place after being stretched. And the Trapper sack, all bear traps are carried at the beginning of the trial instead of spawning on the map. Holy cow, you get all of them? So if you still had an add-on, you could get like 8 traps with you in Trapper Sack at the beginning? That's amazing. Alright, now there's some upcoming changes to the Spirit. The Spirit has been a strong killer since her release, and with that in mind, we've made some changes that aim to increase her skill ceiling whilst also giving survivors some counterplay. When close to the Spirit's husk, survivors will not receive an indication that the Spirit is phase walking. Originally, this was intended to be a fun mind game. Is she using her power, or is she faking it? Though in practice, it often doesn't feel that way. This lack of feedback forces you to make a guess and hope it pays off, which can be great when it works out in your favor, but can also feel awful when it doesn't. Okay, so to add more skill into the Spirit's counterplay, we're making 2 changes. Any survivor within 24 meters of the Spirit will now hear a directional phase sound. This lets you know whether or not she is phasing and also gives you the rough idea of which direction she's coming from. And the Spirit's footsteps will now kick up dust while she's phasing. Keen survivors may be able to pinpoint where she is, but tall grass and other obstacles may make it difficult. Interesting. These 2 changes aim to add more skill into playing as and against the Spirit and reduce the reliance on coin flips where you make a guess and hope it pays off. That was often the complaint against her, is there you'll have all these 50-50s. Additionally, we've done a pass on some of the Spirit's add-ons to bring them more in line and make the lesser used add-ons more appealing. Like the Trapper, some of these changes are small tweaks, while others are completely new effects. The Wakizashi, okay, the scabbard of the ancestral blade. During the Yamaoka haunting, use the active ability button to return to the husk and end the haunting. So this is kind of like the one where the nurse would go back where she was, like it's a boomerang effect one. Go back to where you started from. So you could use this directional effect to fool someone and then go back to where you actually were. I don't know, we'll have to see how that works. Senko Hanabi. When Yamaoka's haunting ends, the Spirit's husk explodes and any vault location within 4 meters are blocked for 5 seconds. Holy cow, that's very different, isn't it? That sounds exciting. Killer add-ons update. What does moderately mean? How much more is tremendously compared to considerably? If you ever find yourself in this situation, well, you're not alone. We use descriptive words like these to keep descriptions simple, but they end up causing just as much confusion since it's not immediately clear how much they're doing. And with that in mind, we've done a pass-through on all the killer add-ons to list their exact effects. Wow. We plan to extend this to the rest of the game, items, perks, etc. in the future. Wow. I love that. On top of that, killer add-ons that apply a status effect will now have a brief description of what that status effect does. While our designers were going through hundreds of killer add-ons one by one to update their descriptions, they also noted down a few for changes as well. There's far too many to list here, but we've changed some add-ons for the following killers: Hillbilly Nurse, Shape, Hag, Oni, Blight, Wraith, Pig, and Ghostface. These changes focus mostly on unused add-ons or add-ons that are too weak or too powerful. Holy cow, this is going to be a huge update. Perk updates. Variety is the spice of life, and incidentally, Dead by Daylight matches too. In an ongoing effort to give you more options to choose from, we're updating a huge list of perks. Without further ado, let's run through some of them quickly. Vigil, nice and simple. We're increasing the recovery rate from 20% to 30%. I'm just going to read the high-end ones, assume that everybody has tier 3. Additionally, Vigil will now increase the recovery rate of the broken, exposed, and oblivious status effects as well where applicable. That's a huge change to Vigil. In short, more situations where it's useful, and even faster recovery too. That is a huge change to Vigil. Broken, exposed, and oblivious. So you could run like For the People with Vigil and recover faster. I love that. Babysitter, Guardian. Oh, so Guardian is like the new name once the Stranger Things perks get phased out. Stranger Things characters are moving on in November. Guardian. Okay. Another small tweak. The rescued survivor will now receive a speed boost for 8 seconds in addition to not leaving scratch marks or pools of blood. The aura reading duration has also been doubled. Wow, okay. For the People, hey, here we go. For the People can create some amazing moments, but the trade-off of being broken can make it very risky to justify using. We're decreasing the duration of the broken status effect from 90 seconds down to 60 seconds, so you could do 60 seconds and Vigil and recover from that 30% faster. I love that. Hex Retribution. Previously, Hex Retribution would only make a survivor oblivious if they cleansed a dull totem. Now interacting with any kind of totem will make them oblivious. Ho-ho! Additionally, we've increased the aura reading duration once a hex totem is cleansed to 15 seconds. So... oh, there's more totem changes. Okay. I'm assuming that all these totem changes are coming in because of the fact that boon totems are coming in, so this is maybe going to counteract some of that. Let's see. Hex Blood Favor. This perk shipped with very safe conditions, so it didn't get out of control. Upon reflection, we feel comfortable with removing some of these restrictions. Hex Blood Favor will no longer have a cooldown and will activate upon successful special attacks as well. Ooh, okay. Hex the Third Seal. Just like the above, we've added special attacks to Hex Third Seal as well. This should make the perk more practical on killers that focus more on dealing damage with their power. Hex Thrill the Hunt with boon perks, making their way into the game. More on this soon, probably in part 2. We decided to give Thrill the Hunt some love by extending the speed penalty from cleansing to blessing as well. Oh, so if you have Thrill the Hunt, your blessings that you're applying to create boon totems are going to be slowed by Thrill the Hunt. Cool. Item and character kill switch. What is this? Last but not least, let's talk about a game health feature. The item and character kill switch. With over 50 playable characters and their cosmetics, nearly 200 perks, and hundreds more add-ons and offerings in the game, some things do break. Rarely things will break in a way that makes them exploitable, and that can make the next week or two before a fix really rough. Enter the kill switch. It's actually a lot nicer than it sounds. The kill switch allows us to disable anything that's causing an issue without needing an update. Oh, okay, I love this. I love this. So we don't have to wait for a patch. If something goes out broken, they can just disable it. When something breaks and becomes exploitable, we switch it off until it's fixed. This is something we've been able to do with maps for a while now to a great effect. Disabled items and characters will be clearly marked and cannot be selected. What this means to you, when that one thing breaks and people start to abuse it, you won't have to play against it for a week or two until there's a fix. Ha! So for an example of that, Breakdown at one point was broken and the hooks would never come back. So now if that happens, they'll be able to like unselect disable Breakdown so people won't be able to use that perk and exploit it. Huh. Interesting. I love that. Very good. With that, we'll give you a break from reading for today, but we're just getting started. There's a lot more to cover, so come back Monday for part 2, the Dead by Daylight team. Very cool. Okay, and for a little extra credit reading here, Bridget told me that there was a forums post that Peanuts responded to some questions about this add-on pass-through thing, so let's check this out. To set expectations realistically, I just want to note that this is not a full add-ons pass-through. As amazing as it would be to do a pass-through on so many killers add-ons all at once, that would end up being years of work squeezed into a single update. More accurately, it's a pass-through on some of the underpowered, overpowered, and unused add-ons for a bunch of different killers, rather than a bunch of add-ons for a single killer like we usually do. And then he was met with resistance when people said, not to be that guy, but years. Hey, I remember every Sunday morning watching McLean's stream where he went through add-on by add-on, and that was years ago. So he wound up working on some of these add-on pass-throughs for killers like Hillbilly and Nurse, and yeah, I believe that it does take years. It does take quite a while to change so much. Add-ons are pretty small and easy to overlook in-game, but there's a bunch of work behind the scenes that goes into updating them. I'll greatly simplify things, but you'll need to figure out which add-ons need changes, create new designs for those add-ons, scope them to see how long they'll take to implement, make the changes, playtest the changes, reiterate until they're in a good spot, quality assurance test the changes, have everything localized, and ship the changes. Multiply that by 20 for each killer, then multiply it by the number of killers getting changes, and it quickly adds up to be a lot of work. Some simpler changes like number tweaks can be pretty quick to ship, pretty quick and skip some steps, but some larger add-on changes can end up taking just as much time as a perk. Though the real catch here is the scoping bit. Setting aside time for add-ons means taking time away from other features and balance changes that you'd probably want. Going absolutely wild on add-ons balancing would end up with less perk killer balancing, so it's important to strike a balance, no pun intended. Too long didn't read, simple on the surface, loads of work in practice. Yeah, I mean, I think these are always probably secondary projects that they're working on besides new content. So to focus on just a pass-through of every single add-on of the killer would definitely take a whole bunch of time. Let's see here. Can you reveal about how you choose what should be changed? Is it killer win rates, survivor escape rates? In short, yes and no. We've got detailed statistics, but ultimately it comes down to a mix of stats and feedback. Stats typically show us where to look, not so much what should be done and whether it's a problem, and for that we turn to feedback and gameplay. For example, say there's 2 really popular add-ons on a killer, but they're not actually that powerful, kill rates relatively unchanged. That might suggest that it's not overpowered, but rather that people feel they're a huge quality of life improvement, so we'd look into that and see if that's the case. And if that's the case, that might be a good time to take part of the add-on and integrate it into the base kit, so people don't feel like they need to rely on those specific add-ons as much, for instance. Yeah, so these are examples like Rat Liver for Demogorgon and combat straps for Pig and things like that that got changed. Alternatively, those 2 add-ons might just be wicked fun to play with, which is why it's important to do further research and look at feedback and gameplay. So to summarize, we've got stats, but that's not all we base decisions on. So yeah, so some people might feel that they absolutely need to have an add-on to play a killer. Me personally, I always like to run extra traps as Trapper, some kind of a sack. I feel like that is a necessity. Won't be anymore, but yeah, that's pretty cool. I completely understand where they're coming from on that. Let's see. Okay, so that was a little bit of extra credit there. It was very interesting to see behind the curtain some extra thought process behind making these add-on changes. I miss those simpler times hanging out with McLean on Sunday mornings as he went through all of the add-on lists for each killer one by one in his spare time. It was very cool to see. But okay, so that's what we have for part 1 of this developer update. More to come on Monday. Probably going to be boon totems is what I'm thinking. They're going to talk all about that. So if they're talking about this, probably PTB on Tuesday. Nothing official, but that's my guess. So that should be exciting. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about all these changes that are coming in this mid-chapter patch. And don't forget to take care of each other in and out of the fog, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
It's a Gen Rush life for us. It's a Gen Rush life for us. Set a hiding, we do gens. Set a randoms, we got friends. It's a Gen Rush life.